I identify as a bisexual female in college, and I realized that I was interested in more than one person, but it was of multiple genders, so I didn't really know how to get it because I didn't see too many people like that. It was always one or the other. I met this one person who was out with the same sexuality as me, and they were in a similar circumstance as me, and I was saying, oh, like, it was more than just a definition on a paper of this is my sexuality. It was, you can be like this too. It's okay for you to be this way. So I was seeing more that there was someone else like me, as silly as that seemed. But it was nice to meet someone that was like that. It really is okay to be me because it only is going to affect myself. It was nice to be told I can be me and that's okay. I don't have to worry about how it affects someone, even though I thought it was going to affect them.
I identify as a gay male. Even from a really early age, I just kind of realized that I felt differently. And I didn't fit in with like a lot of the other guys and what was supposed to be typical for kids back then. Even when I was like 5, you know, kids used to, I mean, they sensed it too. They weren't always really nice and stuff, and so it happened like pretty early on. It was kind of on my own until I think actually I did go off to college at the University of Georgia. I found the gay group on campus, and I realized for like the first time that no, it's okay. Like, you know, there are a lot of people out there like me, and you know, I was intelligent, I was a nice person, and like what people back home would call a good Christian and everything, but you're not given credit for that because you're gay. You can't possibly be a person of faith or a good person. You're like in Georgia, in small town Georgia, that was the way it was. You know, they thought I was like a step above they thought I was worse than a pedophile or like the same thing. Finding a group of people like me where I could talk to them and be with them and share, it just, I don't know, it was more than, like I was going to say it's a breath of fresh air, but it was so much more than that. You know, it was like, revolutionary for me, freeing, you know.
I identify as lesbian. I was somewhat aware of my differences, well, that I was different rather at the age of 8. I didn't really fully understand why until that period of time. 11 years of age is where it hit me the hardest. I knew I didn't like wearing dresses. I didn't like the whole concept of femininity in the sense that, you know, it was taught to me. And yeah, it was an awkward moment. It was very difficult to feel like I had a sense of belonging and really a specific place to call home. So there was always uncertainty that existed. Just recently, I have come to grips with that conclusion just based on my self-expression. Granted, going to the Pride was helpful, Pride events, because it helped me to realize I'm not the only one.
I identify as a gay person. I do actually remember a time when I felt different. I remember being in kinder or first grade. I don't remember exactly when, but my mom would walk me to school, and she would walk with a friend who also had a kid in my same class as me, and she was female. And I remember that my mom and her friend were chatting, and I would stand by my mom, and her kid would stand by her mom, and we would both always just look at each other and like smile. And my mom would be like, oh, it's like you guys are lovers. And I knew that wasn't right, but my mom was joking about it, so I knew it was different. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I was like, the way she was joking about it didn't encourage for me to look into that kind of feeling. So I kind of like squashed it. But I remember having those feelings in like first kinder. And as I got older, I kind of started to learn the vocabulary of what it meant. And I was kind of able to really feel or understand that I was different, not in a bad way, but it was just a different feeling. And in junior high, I kind of not accepted it, but I was like, okay, I'm different. And in high school is when I started to become a little bit more comfortable within myself. But it wasn't until college when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm different, and this is why.
I identify as a gay man. When I started kindergarten, I met this boy, I think on the first or second day of school, and I immediately wanted to be his friend, like really badly. And looking back, I can see that was my first crush. Going into first grade, I still liked this boy, but that's when I started realizing that no one else was talking like or feeling the things that I was feeling. I was waiting to hear someone say something that would validate me. I was waiting for my teachers to talk about, you know, who can like who and boys liking boys, and it never came, not until high school. When I got to high school, I heard of a teacher who was openly gay. I wasn't out yet as a freshman, but just knowing that he was there started giving me some courage, and I guess I didn't really feel alone because there were no other kids that were out at my school. The next year as a sophomore, I came out, and I give a lot of credit to that teacher. If educators can have the courage to come out and be open with their students, then it gives the students someone to look up to.
I identify as female. I've felt different since I was much younger. It wasn't until I was in my early teens where I started identifying more as a non-binary, I'd say, and just now in my 30s finding the language to go along with that. I grew up in Illinois, so I definitely felt like, hey, I'm different. Am I going to be a tomboy forever? Is that the language that I'm going to use? I wasn't fitting in any of the binary boxes that were being taught to me in the classroom, or in my home for that matter. For my coming out, I would say it helped that my mother ended up divorcing my father and then coming out as a lesbian, and I used that for a good year or two as my kind of my feelers to put out to different people to see how they accepted the gay community before explaining how I was feeling myself. I'm learning to enjoy being me and the whole fact that I'm my own individual. I've always struggled with the gender norms. Bathrooms have never been fun. I've always just went with the female identity. As I said, I identify as a female, and most people do not identify me that way. My mom and the partner she chose, having those role models, learning that there's a community outside of the heteronormative community, made me see a world past what I had grown up with. The idea that I never really saw that, so I didn't know how I did see myself. And that was a struggle, I'd say, as a child and a teenager, doing what everyone expected me to do. Well, then what was I left to do is what I've been figuring out, and knowing that I can create what I want has been a big part of my own self-advocacy.
I am a transgender queer man. I never really felt different. I've just kind of been me the whole time. I've just been in different reflections and trying to embrace myself, and then realizing that's not how I am. I remember 8th grade, I was in a position where I didn't like myself very much as a masculine person because I felt like I wasn't feminine enough. I wasn't keeping up with how I wanted people to see me and how I wanted to blend in with like the culture around me. So I tried to hyper feminize myself, and then that like pushed me into really, really deep like emotional struggle where I'm trying different ways to be happy. I think it was just kind of like an internal battle of trying different like personalities and like expressions on, where it was trying to find a way I could be like comfortable with myself. But then after maybe like a year or two, I learned that I was more comfortable in jeans with masculine pronouns. I cut my hair. It was a really hard moment for my family, but it's not their hair to